Well, welcome back to another episode of Crestview Leads, where I, Tim Bolduc, city manager for the city of Crestview, get to talk to whoever I want about pretty much whatever I want. We try to stick to the leadership topics. And so today I've got my good friend Tom Gordon with me. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Thanks for having me out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom and I met, I guess it was the day after I actually got hired. He was at breakfast with the mayor, who was the chairman at the time.
Yes.
And they were discussing how hard to be on my contract. Is that right? Yeah. So Tom, I didn't know him, but he was nice to me before then, so I've been nice to him since.
I appreciate that.
So I'm happy to have you here. A long time. How long you guys been in Crestview?
The family?
Yes.
The family moved here several generations back before Okaloosa County, and
oh wow! So it's all the way back. So granddad's granddad.
Yeah, several grandparents.
Okay. All right. Cool. Actually in the Crestview area.
Laurel Hill.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that.
My grandfather was born in Laurel Hill, Walton County, and he died in Laurel Hill, Okaloosa County.
Right. I forget that changed over. Yeah. So very cool. So you've been here. Your family's been here you've been here for a couple generations.
Yes, sir.
Your family's been here for more than that.
Yes.
And then today, like I talked to you earlier, today I just want to talk about, we always try to bring a specific topic to our leadership podcast. And one of the things that you and I have talked about before, and I really think it's interesting, I grew up in a family-owned business as well. And so my dad had a window company. It was Bolduc & Sons Windows and Glass many, many decades ago. And then we did business together in a construction company. And so it's always nice to get a chance to sit down and talk to somebody else who came up in the family business. And so tell me, first of all, your two business names again?
Gordon Air Conditioning and Gordon Martial Arts.
All right. So let's talk about Gordon Air Conditioning. That was your dad's.
Yes.
Right.
Mom and dad.
So tell me a little bit. So I joke with you about how gutsy it is to put your name on your business. So, that's, and I said, well, when I told you that, you said, I didn't do that.
Yeah. Dad started the company, Mom and Dad, and Dad was in the military. He went in the military and got drafted for the Korean conflict and made a career out of it. And when he retired, he went into civil service at Duke Field, doing air conditioning. And Dad had, when he wanted to try his own thing, and he decided that at 49 years old, it was a good time to start chasing his dream of opening his own business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he started it at 49. How did you start working in it pretty much right away? Were you like me? Did you kind of fight the idea of it, or how did that?
Yeah, on both accounts, yes. So, and I got in his way every summer.
Right.
And he opened it just before my 9th birthday. I was born in 70. And so he started at 79, and it was just a couple months before my 9th birthday. And every summer I worked with Dad. And, Dad always say, boy, you can't quit until while the sun's out.
Right.
And summers are long. And then I worked with that first winter, and I said, hey, Dad, it's 5 o'clock, the sun's out. Oh, boy, you can't leave till everybody has heat. So
they do that kind of stuff.
He got me, yeah. But he started the company and started my mom's sewing room. Nice. And Mom didn't like that after a period of time, and she said, hey, you gotta get out. So he opened up actually off of Main Street for a very short time, and then he opened up over there where CVS is now. It was Taylor Auto Parts at the time, and that's where he ran that for years there, and then we moved out to where we're at now on Highway 90 East.
So where was the place on Main Street?
I don't really remember. I was a kid, but it was further down. It seemed like it was past Huxley
So
Barbecue.
it was actually on Main Street. It's not where the martial arts place is now then? Okay. All right, that's cool. Yeah, so my dad went in the military, served 22 years in the military,
same way.
And then got out and decided he was going to go into the construction industry, and that's how we did that. And so I was the oops kid, last of 6. I tell everybody that he kept trying until they got it right. My sisters don't necessarily agree with that, but so I grew up in it. He had retired from the military before I can remember, and so I was in construction every summer. And he would, stick me with the AC guy, stick me with the electrician, it drove me crazy. But now you look back on it, and I'm thinking how brilliant that was because of getting an opportunity to learn all those things. So, like, what's one thing you remember from your dad running the business that you've tried to carry through now that you've got it?
My dad wasn't. He wasn't the best businessman.
Okay.
he was really good at air conditioning, and he decided he wanted to open an air conditioning company. He became a good businessman through trial and error. But the one thing Dad always said was he'd drive it home. He says, "Boy, all you got is your name."
Right.
And that was the one thing he always stuck with, is make sure you always try to do the right. And you can't make everybody happy.
Sure.
But he, always try to do the right thing. And that was a thing I grew up with. It's never the wrong time to do the right thing.
Right.
And that's easy to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's easy to do. It's just, the consequences aren't always easy to deal with. Yeah. But we that's all we get to go home with, right? Is our integrity. So we just keep trucking on. So you did that. You went to work with him. Did you do that right out of high school? What was that? How did that work out?
No, it's funny. I in the story about the being the last child, my sister, I have 3 sisters, and one of them explained to me that I was an accident child. And I went and asked my mother that, and she said, "Oh, no, son, you were an accident. You were unplanned." Ah. Okay, because God doesn't make mistakes. Right. Got it. Okay. So very similar story that you have on that. And I went to college, and I realized that college wasn't for me. And I remember going to class. I went to the counselor, and they had an air conditioning course, and it was a 2-year AS degree. Okay. And she mentioned it to me. I said, "Why would I want to do that? I'm so sick of air conditioning." I look back now at 18 years old, and I had done air conditioning all my life, which is funny now. I was like, I don't want to do air conditioning ever again. So the counselor called me back and said, "Hey, we've condensed the 2-year air conditioning class into 1 semester. It's going to be a condensed course. It's by invitation only." I was like, "That's awesome." And so you took a 2-year program, a purgatory program, and condensed it into 1 purgatory program. Right. Right. And you're inviting me. No thanks. And I walked out there thinking, why would they even think of me? And I thought about it, well, kind of a dummy to miss that. So I went back and I said, "Hey, I think I'd like to do that." And I went to the course. I made a really good grades in the course. And I thought, I'm being dumb. And so I went back and got full-time with air conditioning when I was 20. Okay. And I've been doing it ever since.
Nice. So then you own martial arts studio also?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? So how did that come about? Like what made that? Did you try to turn your passion into some cash? What's the deal there?
No, like all children, all kids are bullied. I'm always interested. My child's bullied, as is all children. Right. So I was being bullied. Mom felt sorry for her little Tommy. Right. And put me in a karate class.
6'1", 6'2"?
I was a little kid. Yeah. And it put me in a karate class. And I wasn't ever good enough to test. I remember that. It was adult class. Okay. And it was actually where Costco is now, next to Till and Water. It was actually the karate studio. And the guy, I don't remember the guy's name. He was tall, because I was little. I was 8. Right. Everybody was tall. Everybody was tall. I think his first name was Sensei, pretty sure. And but he couldn't. He was a black belt in karate, but he was a white belt in business. Okay. And I took a lot away from that as I got older. That I never was able to even test because he went out of business. So it's critical that people who open businesses like that are good at business, because you have an obligation to your students to be here for them for their journey.
Well, I think the psychology of it too, and this is probably kind of what you're getting at. So if you don't have good curriculum and a good program so that your students can progress through it, it makes it harder, for them to stick with it, which, ultimately, martial arts for the most part is about building confidence, health, that, right? Is that, sure. I mean, that's y'all's approach?
Yeah. You take we've had parents who sign their kids up. Me and my child's really, really bashful. And you put them in class and they come out of their shell. Right. You got the next kid behind them comes in. My child's super hyper. I put them in the same class so that the shy kid comes out of their shell. The hyper child calms down. Right. It's amazing. Martial arts, the world would be a better place if more people did martial arts. Yeah. Yeah. And wherever you're at, I always kind of laugh at my martial art competitors who say, Gordon Martial Arts is my competitor. No, I'm not. It's baseball.
Right. It's funny. We have this conversation. I have this conversation a lot of times about churches. Yeah. Right. So there's like 100 churches north of the river, but there's also 46,000 people north of the river, and there's not enough. There's not more churches than there are spaces, and so the same thing's true. Martial arts. Air conditioning. Whatever. We have air conditioning. Everything. Right? We probably got 5 or 6 different martial arts studios in town, and you guys don't ever seem empty.
No. And now we have had, I've watched 3 or 4 close. Right. In the air conditioning world, my biggest competitor is not ABC Air Conditioning. It's the kitchen countertop guy. It's the pool people.
Right.
In the martial arts, it's baseball, it's football, it's anything that's outside of the program. Now, surely you're going to assign your kid to martial arts, and you have 4, 5, 6 choices to do that.
Right.
That's fair. But otherwise, there's a lot of competition.
Sure. So tease that out a little bit. You said your competition is not other martial arts studios. It's baseball and it's sports. Mm-hmm. And so you're saying you're competing for time.
It's banned.
Yeah.
It's anything that takes your time. It's Xbox or whatever game they're playing now.
Right. Ugh, yeah.
It's whatever takes their time.
That's interesting. Yeah. I never really thought about it that way. So I asked you the question, did you turn your passion into cash? So what prompted you to get started? I think I interrupted you.
No problem. So I was in a closed organization, and the opportunity was to open a school in Florella. Okay. So we did that for 5 years. The organization that I was with started having a number that I had to have. I had to have a certain number of students to test for, because in martial arts, people think black belt is the mecca. There's degrees of black belt.
Sure.
So when I got my first degree, second degree, third degree, at fourth degree, they were going to require me to have a certain number of students testing per year to test for fourth degree.
Okay.
And I was like, so I called the headquarters and I said, hey, when did the accounting department get on the testing panel? And they didn't think that was near as funny as I did.
Yeah. So it became kind of like a belt factory instead of actually. Yeah.
And so I said, I think I'm going to pull away. So when I pulled away, I went to a different organization that didn't require that, and came back to Crestview where I couldn't be before because of the organization, and was able to open up in my own hometown and have a nice school.
So you had your own school in, did you say Laurel Hill?
In Florella.
Oh, Florella, that's right. Oh, okay.
I ran that for 5 years, 97 to 2002.
Okay, and then you came down here and opened
2003.
Gordon's. And did you open Gordon's in the location that it's currently in?
No, we opened in Northview Plaza. I rented from Keith Lewis.
Okay.
Great guy.
Yeah.
And he had a little space, small space.
Right.
It had columns in the middle of my space.
Nice.
So my workout floor was like 600 square feet.
Not very big.
No. And we shared the air conditioner with the hair salon next door.
So it smelled like hairspray and perm all the time?
Oh, it was rough.
That's epic. Those are the good memories, man.
They are.
Those are the fun ones.
And this building came available. It used to be the Sears building. Well, it used to be a Piggly Wiggly or Jitney Jungle, then a Piggly Wiggly. Then it became the Sears building. And our church had it for a short time, and it became available. Right. And we bought it.
Yeah. So when did you buy that?
2004, I think, 2005.
Okay.
4 or
Very
5.
Cool. So just guess, how many young kids do you think you've had through your program?
At the low point, we averaged 75 students. Now we're averaging a little over 200. So over 20 years, 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah.
Easy.
At least, I would imagine. Yeah. That's pretty cool that you've had an opportunity. So, and like you said, you believe the world would be a better place if more people did martial arts. Maybe bias.
I think Willie Nelson said that.
Oh, is that Willie Nelson said that?
I think he said that, yeah.
What martial arts did Willie do?
I think he did Taekwondo, I think.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a Tom Gordon original.
No.
You probably could have pulled it off on here because I didn't know any better.
No, somebody fact checked me.
Somebody would. Speaking of fact checking, leadership in business, learn from your dad. Then you went into the martial arts business, doing both of them at the same time. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting to me. If we have time, we'll circle back to that, because when I was in business, one of the things that I think that I could have done better was the division of my time. Like I had a split focus. I tried to accomplish too many different things at once. So we'll circle back to that. But before, I can't let you out of here without talking about, being an elected official, right? Because this is Crestview Leads Podcast. And so you were, for a time, on our city council here. Yeah. Before I got here.
Yes.
What years was that? I don't
remember. 2010 to 2013 or 14.
13 or 14. Okay, so you had been off for a little while when I came, because I came in 19, so I was curious about that. So what prompted you to do that? Like, why would we've had this conversation, but we're going to talk about it on the air here. So why would a successful business owner want to subject themselves to 20,000 people at the house that don't really know what they're talking about but think they know everything?
We were taught not to complain.
Okay.
Either
as far as from your parents,
from our children. The children were taught not to complain. We're also taught to suffer quietly, which is another story. But
right.
Don't complain. Either you fix it, or you don't. But either way, you shut up.
Okay.
So if you don't like something, go fix it. And I didn't. So if you don't like the way the city is being run, then you should run for office. If you don't like the way anything you don't like, you should try to make adjustments.
Right. Was there something in particular that you said, hey, I want to go try to fix?
No, on that one, actually, on that part of it is that my parents never said to volunteer. I've never heard them say, son, go volunteer.
Okay.
But we were taught that through action more than words. And you're supposed to help people for sucking up all that free air.
Right.
So you have an obligation to do things for the community. And being part of the city council is an opportunity to give back to the community. And this community has been good to me and my family for generations. Right. So I have a passion to do things for the community. It is not a thankless job. Yeah, I get a lot of praises.
People always give, when they try to say, "Oh, are you the mayor?" I'm like, "No, I wouldn't be the mayor, man."
Yeah,
that ain't worth the hassle.
Yeah, and we have a great mayor, so we're fortunate to have him.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
And now I've had people ask me if I'd run for mayor, not against him.
Right.
He's why would you run against him?
Yeah, JP's a good dude.
And I always ask I don't watch sports, which is always kind of funny, but I ask who was the coach behind Bear Bryant.
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah, he got in some trouble. He didn't last very long.
No, but JB is to me like that kind of guy.
Yeah, for sure. So you got on there and you either ducked my question or didn't answer it. So the question was like, was there a particular thing that you wanted to try to improve on, or you just said, hey, I need to give because I can give. I want to give back. That's what it was.
So I started with Board of Adjustments. Okay. So I started with Board of Adjustments, which was a natural tie-in for me, being in construction.
In the building industry.
Because you're building a house and you're 6 inches too far over. Yeah. Give the guy a break.
Right. Or the guy could pay attention to the plans.
That's right. So it goes both ways. Yeah. And sometimes we gave variances, and sometimes we said,
Yeah. Interesting that you'd be interested to know this. We've actually created some leeway in there. Excuse me. We've created some leeway in there where you can make administratively, if it's a mistake or something like that, you can get through it. But yeah, the Board of Adjustments is a tough one because that's like a final say. Yeah. So then you went from the Board of Adjustments, then you ran for council.
I was actually the person resigned prematurely, and it became a vacancy.
Oh, so you got appointed to council?
I got appointed to council.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. So did you ever have to run for council, or were you appointed the whole? Oh, so you were appointed the whole time you were there.
It's a 3-1 vote.
Okay, all right. I'm familiar with those kind of split votes.
Yes.
I came in on a 3-2. So.
Yes.
Nice.
No pressure.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. No pressure at all. So then you got on, you had all these ambitions, all these things you thought maybe, hey, I can do these things better. And then what happens?
I didn't really have a lot of ambitions on the city council. I saw that we had some issues in our city leadership with crime was really high.
Yes.
And I wanted to deal with that with the crime side, and I didn't think that the current mayor was addressing it correctly. So I decided to run for mayor at the time.
Okay. So then you left from council to run for mayor. Yes. And so when you ran for mayor, that was about the reduction of crime. Particularly, was it particularly drugs or just crime in general? We
had 3 issues. We had I know the first one will be a surprise to you. We had a traffic issue.
What?
And my frustration with the traffic issue was everybody blames Crestview.
Yeah.
So I had a county commissioner who took the time to meet with us, and we were discussing ways around the traffic issue.
Right.
My frustration was that I had a county there, we had state that was willing to come in, you had city that was going to be there, but where's General so and so? And they said, who's General so and so? I don't know. You have the baddest dudes on the planet at 7th Special Forces. Oh yeah. If we get a hurricane and all traffic comes this way, they can't get out.
Yeah. So we've been able to get that group all together.
That's now. Great. That was our Achilles heel.
In fact, I had a conversation last Friday where it looks like we're going to be moving up a widening project on South 85, which is going to be nice. But that requires a tremendous amount of cooperation from the base.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't understand that. And the issue that we typically face, and this is the issue you were facing then, is that the commander of the base is here for 2 years, and then they move on, and so it's hard to get continuity. It takes 2 years to do just about anything, to get something off the ground. And so we get started, and then you have a new commander, and it's not that commander is any less compassionate to the issue, but they got to get up to speed, and it takes time. And so that's probably one of those things that you face. So you had traffic, and then what was the other? You said 3.
No career choices.
No career choices.
My kids have to leave, and. Right. And then when we had UPS store here, and UPS store left, and the current leadership said that was good because it would relieve traffic issues.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then we lost Tesla. We lost Tesla to Defuniak. And I was like, Defuniak has higher crime than Crestview at the time. Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, we're such a void of leadership. And I'm so glad that we have a city manager now, because we needed the cohesiveness, because the way that we do the Sunshine Law keeps us from doing good business.
Right. See, people don't understand that either,
yes.
Tom. They don't understand that elected officials don't just get to talk to each other at all. You have to do it in a public meeting, which is fine, but then you have no idea how long is that conversation going to take, and so
we have to fire people.
Right. Publicly.
On the record, which is horrible. I mean, that's horrible for their family.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that too? Speaking specifically from a leadership perspective, you guys are responsible for like the hiring and the terminating or discipline of these high level positions at the city, but you really didn't have any day-to-day influence over them. So you didn't have an opportunity to ensure that they were trained properly, right? I mean, it's because as an elected body, you can't talk. No. So you can't say, so and so needs extra training in whatever the area is, because you can't talk to each other about it. No. You would have had to do that publicly.
I had to wait to the thing.
Right.
So
what ends up happening?
Say it in the mic. Hey, department head so-and-so, have you had training in this? And you set them up for failure. Yeah. And so, and our two highest liability departments, fire and police, was under the elected mayor.
Right.
Who also had, I'm not being critical of that position, but what experience do you have? The other day, you and I were talking, and I said, my biggest beef now with city council or county commissioners or anybody running for office is that we don't know what their credit is. Yeah. So I don't want to know I like to know that you are fiscally responsible before you're handling, because the budget's $65 million for the city.
It depends on how you calculate it, but so about 45 in operation.
And you can't handle your $60,000 salary. Yeah. Add zeros. So that, and unfortunately, you're there to help structure that. Right. But before, it was just 5 elected officials, and I could talk to them about, hey, how's your kid's baseball going? I could say that.
Right, but you can't say anything about.
Can't say anything about that. May come before us.
Are we buying this?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's. I can't even imagine.
It was a nightmare
trying to operate like that at all. So it makes sense though then that your decision was to go from the council, where you're one voice of 5, to the mayor, where you at least had operational control over 2 departments.
And I ran a business and understood. And my goal as mayor was to set up a city manager. Right. Because I also knew that I was out of my purview. Right. I know what I'm good at, and I was better at it.
Kicking people.
Yeah. Well, the one gentleman came at me. It was actually Faircloth, who was on the city council for a while. Yeah. And he came at me pretty hard one day. He says,
Doug voted for me. Be nice.
Yeah. He says, what makes you qualified to run for mayor? I said, I'm not. And he looked at me and said, I'm more qualified than everybody else.
There
and
you
he
go.
Went, oh. And he kind of took a shot at me a little bit. And then one day at Warrior Hall, they had a meeting, and he says, I see Councilman Gordon's out there, and he's got a microphone.
Yeah.
That's always frightening.
Yeah.
He says, I owe you an apology.
I think that was the meeting, 2 meetings prior to my actually getting hired. That was in that public meeting.
At Warrior Hall.
At Warriors Hall, where we, because I was there. I was in the selection process, so I was coming to all the meetings. Yep. And I remember
that will stand up, because he could have hung me.
He was only here for a short period of time. He ended up getting sick right after I got hired. A good guy, seemed like he was very good to me, kind to me. So before I don't want to run out of time, because I want to talk about one thing I do want to talk about is, how did you know that it was a good idea to split into 2 businesses? So I guess you didn't really split, but your focus has to be split. So how do you keep track of that? So like I said, when I was in construction, one of the things that I felt like we did is over diversify. So we go through the downturn in the economy, and I'm stretched in 2 different directions, or actually at that time, 4 different directions. And I've got a downturn in the economy. Well, you're on 2 completely different. So one thing, I did air conditioning for a little while. Mm-hmm. I sold air conditioners. And one thing I learned about that is I did roofing too. And people will stick a bucket under a leak in their roof, but they will pawn their children to fix that air conditioner because it's hot, right? So air conditioning is solid. You do a good job, you're going to come back. But then you instead of sticking with just one thing, you did the second. So what drove that? Why would you take that risk?
Well, I still haven't decided it was a good idea.
Okay.
In air conditioning, I go to your house.
Right.
So I take care of your needs at your home. You call me, I go there. In martial arts, you bring your children to me, and right now we're typically martial arts schools are about 70-30, 70% kids, 30%. Adults. We're actually about 60-40, about 60% adults, 40 kids.
Wow.
Yeah. and I haven't quite figured that part out yet.
Well, you're doing a lot of Krav Maga, right?
And with combat jiu-jitsu, and they have a lot of adult-driven programs.
Right.
But on the flip side of that, from a psychological point, you'll pay for things from one father to another. Right. You'll pay for things for your kid that you can't afford for yourself.
I got you. Okay.
So, Tim, why don't you go do this? Well, I can't afford that. It's for little Johnny. That's a good deal.
Right.
Yes, it's funny. So on that part, the martial art business is theoretically busy during the winter months, and the air conditioning business is theoretically busy. Also, I want to do my own thing. You know, what I love about my martial art and air conditioning competitors is I hear the same thing from both sides, and I'm always so entertained because it's not unique. Right. They're not clever. My air conditioning competitors say, well, you know, he's really just a karate guy or a martial art guy. But first of all, it's not karate. Right. And I always think that's funny. And then my martial art guys, who my competitors say, well, you know, he's just an air conditioning guy that, you know, he dabbles in martial arts.
Right.
And I just kind of, you know, the truth of the matter is I enjoy both now. Right. The interesting thing when the economy crashed in 2008, which is the advantage of, Dad started the business, you know, in 79.
Right.
So well over 40 years ago. Martial art 20 years ago. What I noticed is the martial art business declined, gave me about a 2 or 3 month window before the air conditioning declined when the economy went down.
That's interesting. So it was an indicator.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So what? We've got just a couple minutes left. So explain to me why Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is better than what do you call it? Combat Jiu-Jitsu. What's the difference?
The combat jiu-jitsu is a Japanese-based.
Okay.
And the Brazilian is
Brazilian-based,
yeah. The Brazilian jiu-jitsu is, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu is really good. They learned a lot of their stuff from the Hapkido instructors that I teach.
Right, okay.
I actually enjoy Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Tom and I like to go back and forth on this because I actually do Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And so he gives me some grief about it. But I went out and hung out with you guys and did some Krav Maga, which I like that. That's very practical. My thing is that, you know, the reason I like martial arts as far as an exercise, so I had to lose weight and get in shape. And that's what really drove that. And so at 47 years old, I got into martial arts, which is way too old for that nonsense. But I did it because I wanted, the way my mind works, I can't just go run on a treadmill. It has to be productive to me. So I felt like learning how to handle yourself and that way would be, you know, have a dual purpose. And so that's one of the reasons I like Krav. The idea of Krav is very practical.
It's very in your face.
For, you know, for like, you know, especially any of us, but like for in women in self-defense and stuff like that, you guys have a really impressive class that deals specifically with that. So what is that like? That's what it focuses on, right? For women's Krav Maga?
We have women's class only. It's on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. And then we have a mixed class on Mondays and Wednesday evenings. Nice. So we have women's and men. And I studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a while. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed hopping. And truth of the matter is, I don't know if I've ever done a martial art I didn't enjoy.
I would think you'd have to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's
like I want to
fun.
punch somebody every once in a while. Yeah. We don't really get to do that.
You don't get to do that. They frown. The rest frown on that. But you know, so it's enjoyable, and you should learn how to use your body and how to manipulate your people. Yeah. Sure, and you can do that with Hapkido or Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian or Japanese.
It's good stuff. So, well, listen, I appreciate you coming on the show. We're about to wrap up. So, when we talked a little bit today about legacy. It's your dad's legacy that handed to you. Then you've created your own legacy. That's kind of cool too, because you're carrying on his, and then you've created your own. Mm-hmm. So, when this is done, how do you want to be remembered in Crestview? Like, so how do you want that legacy to pass on?
You know, my goal in life is pretty simple: is to die with dignity. And it's a short statement, but you have to live with it. Right. So you just want people to remember you, and they don't remember what you say; they remember how you treated them.
That's right.
And I tell people, they're looking for, you know, on a martial art program, since that seems to be the topic. It's important that you get your child in a good martial art, or yourself in a good martial art program. And there's several choices here in town. Sure. So I hope you find the right one. And of course, I like to say, come see us. Right. But the truth of the matter on that also is, a lot of times it's based on location. Right. I have a wonderful school. It's 45 minutes away. I'm not driving there twice a week. Right. Yeah, because you're spending so much time. Yeah. Listen, man, I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you always. We get a chance to chat from time to time. And so thanks again for coming in. Thank you for everything you do in our community. Hey, thanks for what you do. Because I can tell you, let me say real quickly from the city council's position, we had a nightmare system before. So I don't agree with everything you've done, but I've seen how you got there. Sure. and you've done a great job. So I appreciate what you've done for the city. And also, in fairness, I remember waking up Tuesday mornings and saying, why did I vote that way? So I didn't always agree with everything I did. So just no offense meant, no slight was intended. But so thanks for what you and JB are an awesome team.
Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate you, and we'll have you back on.
Yeah, thanks.